dear people of the southern Cameroons, my dear people of Ambazonia, fellow brave warriors of our liberation movement, accept liberation greetings from me, Comrade John Akuro. Today is Wednesday, and today is April the 17th, 2024. My people, I'm delighted to be back on this platform. And as always, I wish to thank all of you who continue to check on me. I'm doing very okay. And I've been up and about on a few very important issues, both for myself and also for our liberation movement. And I'm back here today for us to have this very important conscience search and evaluation, personal evaluation of our participation in this liberation movement, especially looking at the situation on the ground. My people of Ambazonia, I know that is 7 years down the line that we are gone. Obviously, some people are feeling tired, especially because at some point people were given to develop that impression that it was going to take us just 3 years, 4 years, and we will be there. Of course, it's not going to take us as long as it has taken other countries to win South Sudan. That was about 30 years in the making. Eritrea, almost the same thing. East Timor, that even did it, in two installments. And yet, a lot of other entities that face the same kind of challenges that we are facing today. And so, my people of Ambazonia, I wish to draw our attention simply to that sacrosanct fact that with the appropriate determination, with the required focus, and doing just what we ought to do, that's the appropriate action, we are definitely going to attain our objective. That is ensuring total, absolute independence for the people of Ambazonia. I like us to note one thing. Over time, we have covered a lot of grounds. We may not know it, we may not recognize it, it may not seem too visible, but the grounds covered are enormous. Listen, folks, the thing that is happening right now is we are dealing with an entity that has overtaken us along the line when it comes to winning the communications war. I say this because a lot of those in our liberation movement today who were activists, who were very active on social media, educating people, sensitizing people, selling our actions, plans, and programs geared towards ensuring total and unconditional freedom for our people. Some have tired out. It is normal, it is in the nature of things. But there is definitely a group of much younger, more determined activists that will at some point take the relay baton, and we will continue to pride it on. Let me make it clear here. Some people seem not to understand the sacrosanct rule of communication. This war you see, this quest for freedom that you see, hinges on two things, two key things. You have communication, some people actually call it a propaganda machine, which is actually talking here about the nature of our communication, which is communication in times of crisis, which is critical communication, or call it crisis communication, and the self-defense on the ground, the activities of the self-defense volunteers. When these two are in total tandem, trust me, we will be able to attain the other very big feat, which is mobilizing the fundraising. Because we are not able to mobilize funds if we are not winning at these two levels. And winning here means being persistent, means continually hanging on to educate, to sensitize, and mobilize the people, while the self-defense volunteers on the ground begin to gear towards gaining grounds, towards weeding out the colonial presence of La République du Cameroon from our territory. I mean, bit by bit, meaning we begin having spaces where there is not even a single vestige of the colonial presence of La République du Cameroon. That is where we have to get to. Look, folks, I refuse to listen to those who are negative to assess that as it stands, things have completely crashed. No, they haven't. They haven't even started crashing because they will not crash. They haven't started crashing because they will not crash. What is unfolding in our liberation movement is the same way other liberation movements before ours have unfolded. You begin, you have a lot of people who come up because some are actually expecting that this thing will mature tomorrow, and they start doing what is called positioning. When they start battling for that positioning at that instant because they are feeling that things are going to work tomorrow, that new country is coming tomorrow, I'm going to be president, I'm going to be minister, I'm going to be that. A lot of those ones tire out along the line because what brought them in was not that unquenchable thirst for freedom. What brought them in was interest-based, personal interest. They thought it's going to happen now. Let me shine, fight, get to the fore, and then so that when we get there, I will grab the fleece or I will grab the prize. Those kind of ones will get tired. I mean, within the first 2-3 years, when they don't see anything in view. That's why you have some of them who go back and start telling you, oh, I'm repentant, oh, I was misled, oh, I was this and that. It's in the normal course of things when it comes to liberation movements like ours, where we're talking independence, not just regime change. This is what we should note. And don't forget that we are dealing here with an opponent who has generally believed that it is through divide and rule that they are going to be able to break us. In my next broadcast, I will take time on a response provided by senior statesman by RMB to someone that tried to peddle the imaginary, the illusory, so-called Northwest, Southwest, or Graphy forest people divide. Because it has existed only in myth, but created by the colonial administration of La République du Cameroon from time immemorial to make sure they keep us so seriously divided and never united because they know what is meant by having that kind of unity that is required to keep them out of our land. And so they will continue to tout something that did work at some point until we make nonsense of that whole approach by doing things in the right manner and by doing things only in a way that fosters the progress of our liberation movement. Listen, folks, I shared this here before, and I'm definitely going to share it again, simply because it makes sense. For those who come to us and they tell you, see, no, these problems that we're having is the very bad government of Mr. Paul Biya. Maybe if we join the other people of La République du Cameroon and fight for regime change, things will change. I have demonstrated on this platform, beyond reasonable doubt, that other administrations will even be worse than Biya when it comes to the situation of the people of the southern Cameroons. That's why I shared this quote here, that stop wasting your time on people who beat you, who treat you good one day, then act as if you don't exist at all the next day. That's what happens with La République du Cameroon. As far as we are concerned, the citizens of La République du Cameroon simply see us in this light. One day they feel like we may need these people. Tu as peut-être besoin de ton bamenda. You may need these people because, like the Paul Biya family did, get them to come take care of our children. We use them for years, tap all the things, and in the end, we fabricate some funny story of theft or hap on something else and find fault and throw them in jail. Listen, folks, Mr. Paul Biya, from his own lips, said it in Paris, said it in France, when he was cornered by Mr. Mo Ibrahim. He made clear that from day one, the intention had been to assimilate us, to disappear us into the larger La République du Cameroon. And that has been policy. He didn't say it was an imagination. He said it was policy. But unfortunately, things have not gone as planned. So they are definitely going to continue thinking of different ways of ensuring that they attain this particular objective. Today, I'm on this platform to call on each and every one of us to do a personal evaluation regarding this liberation movement right now. Ask yourself, let's ask ourselves, what has been my contribution to this liberation movement right now? Has it been positive? Has it been negative? Have I brought in the right impact? And if yes, am I proud of where we are today? If yes, am I proud of where we are likely to be tomorrow? If not, what do I need to do differently? Because we must recognize this. A good lot of those folks who came in because they felt that there were immediate interests that they were going to tap, or that there was some financial interest, or that they were going to sit on the table of negotiations with La République du Cameroon and negotiate positions of mayor, positions of council police, negotiate positions of I don't know what in La République du Cameroon, whether governor, whether minister, or whatsoever. They have all fallen. Today, we are getting to that place where the late Castro Fidel said, if I had the opportunity to do it again, I would do it with far less men than I did before. A clear indication that we don't need an entire village to get there. We simply need a little coalition of the willing. People who are totally consumed by the unquenching desire to ensure our freedom. People who have denied themselves any specific personal interest but have decided to pay attention to the greater public interest of ensuring that we get freedom, whether we will be alive to see it or not. There is a lot of our self-defense volunteers who swore by day and by night about how we will all meet in Boya. They are gone. Quite some of them have fallen, but falling in the pious hope that that freedom will happen. And the only thing we need to do is therefore look back, determine how we have gone, find out what we didn't do right, and then decide to turn on a new page as we focus on what I prefer really to address as the most determining phase of our liberation movement. La République du Cameroon is boiling. It may not be very visible to a lot of people, but for those who have a good grasp of the system, you understand what I'm talking about. And this is the time where more than ever before, that small coalition of the willing needs to emerge to take us to where we have to go. We have to bolster our fundraiser. And I want to give you some little evidence to understand what I'm talking about. Don't forget, we have made a serious impact on the international community. And that international community has taken note, but they must count on us to take the lead. Nobody will come and stand ahead and tell you that, come behind me, I'm going to take that freedom and give you. You fight for that freedom to the logical end. You push your enemy to that place where finally the world says, no, we only have to come inside here and make sure these people get what they want, because right now it is not going, it will never be business as usual. We have people who have misinterpretations of exactly how this liberation movement has to be prosecuted. And their misinterpretations usually carry some sway. This is why I like us to see here what Honorable Tibonagi says. This should give us a clear sense of what impact we have created on the international community and exactly why we need to sustain our action, why we need to necessarily change strategies in some areas, why we need to create that impact that puts us back before the international stage and make it become really urgent for the world to take action on our situation. You see what he says here, and this was on April 14th. Today is April 17th, that's 3 days ago, where it says, having just been to Canada to see how 80% of Anglophone majority treats the Francophone minority with dignity makes me grieve for Cameroon's Ambazonians. If only Cameroon's Francophone regime dealt with their Anglophones the same way, there would be no Ambazonia conflict. Tragic. So what I want to say here is we have created partners on the international scene who can sleep, who can't rest without thinking about the plight of the people of the southern Cameroons. Yet, some in our midst can afford now to sleep and even forget that we are still at war, can afford to sleep and even forget that we have unfinished business on ground zero with La République du Cameroon, can even sleep and forget that we all need to continue to contribute the finances necessary to make this happen, can even sleep and forget that we need to continue being out there on social media, making the noise and influencing the cause of this movement. Yesterday here, I made a remark about what I saw as a betrayal to the people of the Southern Cameroons who counted on her, on our sister Libyanka. Libyanka sat on this. She gave it a conscious thought and she recognized that, as a matter of fact, it is noble to stand with her suffering people. And that is why she came out with a latest soundtrack talking about let my people go. Let them go. Let us go. It is this consciousness that I want us to each regenerate in ourselves and contaminate all around us who seem to have fallen asleep. Listen, folks, we just started this business. 7 years doesn't mean too much. We just started. And we have a lot of unfinished business. And we must put in all it takes to ensure we go right ahead and finish this business. Else, what story we will have to tell generations upon generations of Southern Cameroonians to come? We can't spend our time crying on spilled milk or dwelling on those who decided to be, telltales, to be traitors to our liberation movement. On those who decided to take advantage of the liberation movement to better their lot and then immediately forget about the fact that we have to continue to fight for freedom. I had occasion to talk to some people who have benefited from asylum, had their papers in the United States of America, in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, in Germany, in several other Western countries because of this liberation movement. And suddenly they turn around and tell you, I'll not be part of that one, Ambazonia. But they forget very quickly that where they are breathing the air they are breathing, they used the sufferings of those people who are on the ground who will not be able to live like them. Let us arise to that consciousness that we as Southern Cameroonians are a people who have been buoyed over time by communal solidarity. You can't forget. You can't cross the bridge and forget what you left behind. We have to look back. We have to continue to dip our hands. And once you begin to have the opportunity to earn, you must determine to contribute to move this liberation movement forward. That is the only way we win it. I'd like us to look at the response given by one of ours to the posting by Ambassador Tibo Nagy. That is George Mbaka Ebetwe. He says, nobody listens to our cry and no one feels our pain. We have been turned into beggars on our territory. For us to continue to live with our predators in the name of unity, we prefer not to be part of this world. We shall liberate Ambazonia at all costs. Awesome determination. I bet you, Comrade George Mbaka Ebetwe, wherever you are, let me speak like we speak in, in our church. I take one man for my name. But again, that determination cannot only be in words, it also has to be in action. That determination cannot only be words, just words. It has to be action. Those of us who have slumbered must regain that consciousness and get up from this slumber as quickly as possible to finish what we all started. I don't want to kill myself to let anyone know how terrible it's going to be with La République du Cameroun if we ever ended up not getting to where we set out to go. This is something we all must have known by now. And this is something we must really stand on. Because you see, what Ambassador Tibonagi is saying takes me to a statement once made by Aimé Césaire. This is what Aimé Césaire said. Le malheur de l'Afrique, c'est d'avoir rencontré la France. Le malheur de l'Afrique, c'est d'avoir rencontré la France. That is the curse, the misfortune of Africa is to ever have encountered or met France. And this is exactly what I'm talking to our people about here every day. Any form of continuous relationship with La République du Cameroon means indirect incest or whatever you want to call it, indirect marriage or courting to slavery under France. Anytime you think of any so-called thing as federalism, confederalism, or whatsoever with La République du Cameroon, tell yourself that you are indirectly wanting to perpetuate your stay under a cancerous relationship with France. While core French colonies are cutting off every tie with anything France, we who did not ever have to have anything to do with the French in the first place cannot be seen wanting to bring ant-infested firewood into our home, because that will attract the presence of lizards. It will attract the visit of lizards who are the French. Look at in Mali, they are doing everything tooth and nail to make sure they never ever have anything to do again with France. Look at Burkina Faso. They have even relegated the French language. French is no longer the number one official language in Burkina Faso. They are doing everything to erase the presence of France. Look at Rwanda yesterday. Rwanda is cleaner. Rwanda is developing. Rwanda is a wonderland today because they did everything to cut off, that is, cut any kind of thing that could link them to France. Look at Niger. Niger is in the same light. Niger has even gone further by going as far as denting their relationship with the United States of America simply because they tell themselves, and they have been educated to say, to note that the presence of Americans means that one day the French may come back because the French are America's allies. You see how bad it really gets when it comes to people wanting to not ever have any smell of anything French on their territory. Because per se, take note, the United States of America, America is so much loved on the African continent. But in African countries where America begins to get resented, like we're seeing in Niger, that people really come out on the streets to ask for the departure of American troops, it is because of the alliance, the natural or traditional alliance that exists between the United States of America and France. We don't have to have anything to do with France. We're never a French colony. But tying ourselves to La République du Cameroon, allowing our La République du Cameroon to perpetuate their presence on our territory, inevitably invites the cancer called France into our land. I'm not the one who is saying it. This is Aimé Césaire. Aimé Césaire is not from the southern Cameroons. He says, le malheur de l'Afrique, c'est d'avoir rencontré la France. So my people of Ambazonia, this fight is deep, far deeper than some people think. It's not just about the citizens of La République du Cameroon, a lot of whom don't even like us in the first place. They have never stood for us. Because you notice that a good majority of them, you just need to follow their television channels, their debates. A good lot of them had actually and are continuing to applaud their bee and call them a professional army even when they are killing little children. Look at one the other day that just stabbed a young man. A young boy stabbed him to death because he wanted to take a girl by force. And this young man dared to call his attention to the fact that that was not correct, it was an injustice. Yet the citizens of La République du Cameroon call them une armée républicaine et professionnelle. That should tell you where we stand in their minds. Oh, trust me, they will be our neighbors. We will never run away from them at that level. But that is who they should be to us. Just neighbors. Just neighbors. That's who they should be to us. And that is why we have to put in our all to ensure that we attain our objective. I don't want to be long. I want to close on this. I had the pleasure of receiving this article, and this article is published in the Crooks newspaper. You know, the Crooks newspaper is close to the Vatican. It's close to the Catholic Church. That, I mean, the seat of the Catholic Church, the Vatican. And if you look at that article, you read what is there. I'm just taking a bit of it. The top there, where the journalist says, that's Ngala Killian, says, despite such attacks, the Archbishop of Bamenda, Andrew Kiafwanyi, said he believes calm is gradually returning to the two regions. It says Bamenda is the capital of the Northwest region, which is one of the epicenters of the violence. Here, he is referring to the incident that happened in Kumbo, where a number of military people were brought down by the self-defense volunteers, and in retaliation, the army of Mr. Paul Biya decided to descend on innocent civilians, killing at random, killing even an old man of over 80 years. And so it was in reference to this, when he quoted this to gainsay the Archbishop of Bamenda, Andrew Kia, about the fact that you can't say normalcy is returning in such circumstances. Andrew Kia, who is referred to in this article as the president of the National Episcopal Conference, told the Crooks the situation in the Northwest is relatively calm. He attributed the relative calm to the administration of the region, which he said is working to unite people and return them to normal life. He doesn't end there. He says, people have gone back to their jobs, schools have reopened, and businesses are going on. That is what the Archbishop said. Now look at this. This is something I said at the beginning of this conversation, that some people's perspective of what peace is, of what normalcy is what usually has led to very horrific incidents occurring in this liberation movement. Because if someone will say, because people have returned to their jobs, schools have reopened, and businesses are going on, that means normalcy has returned. That person doesn't understand the meaning of peace. Because where there is no justice, there will never be peace. And if that is the appreciation given to the overall stuff, that is the message that sometimes is being vehicled by people whose voices too can matter on the international scene. This is why I say on this platform, and I reiterate, that we have to go back to our various selves, examine our minds, do a self-evaluation of what our contribution has been to this liberation movement, evaluate where the liberation movement is right now, and make sure that we fit into some of the major programs, plans that are underway to ensure that we begin to wipe out the existence of the colonial presence of La République du Cameroon on our territory. Since the only way they appreciate that there is a problem is because people have gone back to work, schools have reopened, businesses are going on back right, they actually expect, by the state of chaos, to mean this is the only language that we learn. And if you look across Francophone Africa, apparently that is the only language they listen to. Look at what happened in Senegal. It took the people taking their destiny into their own hands, getting into the streets massively, and telling Macky Sall it will not be business as usual for the change that we see in Senegal to have happened. It was the same thing that happened in Burkina Faso to precipitate the departure of Blaise Compaoré and eventually others who came in and wanted to continue to quarter to France. The same thing that we are seeing in Niger, that kicked the French presence out of that country, at least for now. No one will come and do it for us. We will have to do it by ourselves. The international voice will only accompany our actions. And that is why I'm calling on each and every one of us to remobilize at a personal level. And let us note that we cannot go to sleep. No, we cannot sleep until we slumber, thinking that someone somewhere will get up and do it for us. We have to go back to that moment where we will not have sound sleep until we have contributed, until we have made sure that we are eroding the colonial presence of La République du Cameroon on our territory by the minute. That is when we begin to make people like Archbishop Andrew Kia and others understand that that kind of normalcy they're dreaming about, of us succumbing under the so-called unity of death under La République du Cameroon, will never ever happen. So let us continue to arise and do right. That is the only way for us. That is the hard way. It is the hard way. But again, it is the only way. And there is nothing anyone can do about it. Because we must continue to be firm, we must continue to be resolute, and we must continue to be determined and focused until we get La République du Cameroon out of our territory. To God be the glory.